Morning everybody, and welcome to the midweek market update live stream from Smack the Markets. So morning Miles, morning Patricia. Let's wait for people to get connected. Certainly this week's been an interesting time in the markets, hasn't it? Very tough out there for trends. So as we wait for people to get connected, just take a quick look through the usual risk disclaimers. Make sure that you're comfortable with these. In brief, they're just saying that we're not licensed to be able to give advice. Any markets, opportunities, situations that we're discussing are purely for training and illustrative purposes only. They're our opinions and not intended to be any advice at all. So I suppose the big news at the moment, probably one of the main things that's curtailing the markets is the business of the pending impeachment of Mr. Trump. Now, that's been progressing over the course of the week. I'm sure you've sort of seen that developing in the news. Today, there is an expectation, according to the news wires that we're picking up, that the Democrats are intending to impeach Mr. Trump. So how that's actually going to sort of play out for a US president to be impeached twice is going to be sort of quite interesting. The impact on the markets, I think, is also going to be interesting as well. Seemingly seem that the markets have been paralyzed with this through the past sort of couple of days. Morning, Michael. Morning, John. Top of the morning to you as well. So let's start to take a look at what's sort of going on. So again, this is with the with that consideration that markets could be again rather sort of paralyzed until we get some sort of conclusion here. The other thing that's actually been going on in the background has been the sort of bond yields and those rates, which have been which again have been getting to extremes actually, where they're starting to have a bit of an impact on the markets as well. So the markets that we discussed on Monday in the newsletter, let's just go take a quick review of those. By and large, because there's not a great deal been going on, there hasn't been a great deal of movement. We'll have a quick review of these though. The oil market here did continue to move on, although we didn't get the retracement that we were expecting. We thought that there was if we remember, the trading window that we had marked out was between the $50 to $60 price point. The price of oil had broken through the $50 level quite nicely and sort of moving on towards that sort of 60. So we're in that trading window there, and we're looking for some sort of retracement back into the $50 level, and that would have sort of taken out quite a bit of extension. It would have been a nice area for traders to have sort of acquired positions. Now, what's happened is we've had a 4-hour retracement, not a daily retracement. So this is on the 4-hour time frame. We got that retracement back into the moving average zone here, and I discussed this. I think it was Monday evening. It was prior to the dead zone, and the question was it a good enough swing play prior to the dead zone, or should we wait till afterwards? And we can see what sort of happened. So the answer to that was it would have been better to have taken it before, but with wider spreads opening up before the over that sort of dead zone, that could have been sort of problematic to have traded, particularly as the market here came back sort of fairly close to the lows. So price action's now moved on. I still think oil is looking sort of pretty good here to the long side. We're in a trading window at the moment, a clear trading window. So we've got this one on the watch list still, looking for opportunities to acquire. If we have a look at time frames like the 60-minute chart, we can see that some of these are starting to look fairly reasonable trends here as well. So sort of buying opportunities back into these trends. Morning, Andy. So the other markets that we discussed were the Dow. Let's have a look at the Dow. Now the Dow here, probably easier to see this on the 4-hour time frame. This market's been very sideways through this week. It hasn't actually made any advancement until a little bit here overnight, but nothing much. So what we're looking at here from the bigger picture perspective was a bit of a retracement on the Dow, but still with a bias to the long side. Overall, the Dow hasn't really been easy to trade from a swing perspective or even an intraday perspective this week so far, as I know you've been finding. So I think this is one of those markets which is most concerned about the political situation in the US, and we're likely to, once we get some sort of conclusion on that, which I think by the sounds of things may well sort of be fairly soon, we may well start to see a bit more of a decisive move on this. From a technical perspective, I just think that there are other better market conditions to look at the moment, considering these. The other ones brings us back into the Forex market. So on Monday, we looked at a couple of markets here to discuss the potential strength or weakness of the US dollar. One of the biggest decision points here in the markets at the moment is the US dollar, whether we're seeing continued strength or going to see continued weakness on that. We've had a burst of strength coming into the US dollar this week, and that's a bounce off those sort of technical levels, so not surprising that we're sort of seeing that. The Kiwi here was a play that we were looking at from a US dollar weakness perspective. So if the dollar continued to weaken, we were expecting the corresponding strength in the Kiwi to help this market to continue higher. At the moment here, you can see that nothing really has progressed. The market's pulled back into the moving averages. It's back into this key decision point area, and at the moment, no real advancement. Now, I think the sort of jury is still really out on these markets. I still think it's worthwhile keeping an eye on these. If we do see weakness coming into the dollar, then these are the markets that I think are likely to benefit from it. So from a trend perspective at the moment, again, the Kiwi is holding up fairly well here on that sort of on the daily structure. Again, you can see here on the 4-hour time frame, we might start to get a bit of indication of decision being made here, as we've got a heads and shoulders pattern being constructed here in price. So if we just mark our level in there at 72.40, you can see the heads and shoulders sort of fairly clearly. So above 72.40 is going to help to sort of push this to the long side. We can see the evidence of that strength coming in. If these neckline gets taken out to the short side, then we're going to start to see a continuation to the short side on this. So at the moment, these markets in a little bit of no man's land, I think. The other one was the euro. So if we just take a look at the euro dollar. And let me try and just clean this up a bit. So what we were looking here on the euro was we'd seen weakness coming in, so the strength in the dollar was helping to push down the euro here, and we're looking at seeing if we can get a short-term run back towards that 120 area. So again, on the 4-hour time frame, we've got a bit of structure through here around these lows. That's 120, around 121.5. So underneath here, the trade was underneath 121.5 down to 120, which is this level here. 120 level being very significant on the lower time frames, higher time frames. And we've got convergence in alignments for this and everything. The one thing that's happened here is we've had a bounce off this level, and that's being mainly driven by the dollar at the moment, and the safe haven status that we've seen the dollar benefiting from over the sort of recent turmoil this week. So again, at this moment in time, I think, we're seeing sort of further strength in the dollar. That's likely to help the euro here to the short side. The challenge is this a good enough structure? Is there any sort of opportunities here to trade? Even though I think this is lining up for a continued move down, possibly down towards this sort of structure level that we've seen here tested a good 3 times. But at the moment, I just don't see anything sort of setting up at all, even for a short-term intraday play at the moment. So, come down to the 15-minute charts. Maybe we see some sort of trend start to form here. Maybe we start to see a pullback. But I don't see it a great deal. Maybe a sort of pullback into a bit of levels there. But let's see. I think there are also better ones out there again at the moment. So when I say better ones out there this morning, I was talking to Fergal this morning. There is really not a great deal of nice looking markets out there, is there? So if you've got markets that you think are looking good, then please post them in the trading room. We'll take a look at them. Some of the best that I'm thinking are involving the Great British Pound. So again, if we take a look at some of these sterling markets. So from a strengths and weakness perspective, we've got strength in the yen, the Swissy, Great British Pound. The dollar has moved over to being sort of fairly strong this morning, so we're seeing that strength coming back in. And on the weak side, I've got the CAD, I've got the Aussie and the Kiwi being the main ones. So with that in line, if we take a look at some of these Great British Pound markets, we'd look at markets like Great British Pound against the Aussie, and that's got strengths and weaknesses in alignment, supporting this market long at the moment. Now, higher time frames, these markets have bounced off some significant key levels. You can see this here on the 4-hour time frame. So these, if we come back to the daily, you can see that these levels now got 3 tests in it. It is counter trend from these time frames. We start to go down to the lower time frames, we can start to see some evidence of trend structure starting to form, which we could be in for maybe some intraday plays to the long side on Pound Aussie. As I say, we have strengths and weaknesses supporting them. We've got trends now coming through the lower time frames. The challenge is now just to see where we might start to see some sort of opportunities. So we've got some nice higher lows continuing here. It's going to be sort of rather challenging here, I think, with this sort of high area up here, where we've got coming up to almost a level where we've been tested 3 times at this high. It's around 176.50, just over. So I think if we can get above there, that would actually be a nice support base for the market. And also having a look at this, that actually just opens the market up, it opens price up for a bit of a clear run. I think possibly up here towards that 178 price point. So I'm liking Great British Pound against the Aussie from that perspective. I've got a few here on sterling markets. We spoke about the pound Swissy earlier, Now pound Swissy is now sort of broken through the sort of 121 area. Morning, Satar. Yeah, we're going to have a look at gold actually. I've got gold on my list, so we'll take a look at that. Hi, Andrew. Yeah, Miles, I agree with you. The dollar suite of markets, the yens, Swisses, Singapores, you know, they are sort of very much within those sort of 4-hour ranges, aren't they? So let's have a look at let's take a look at some of these sterling markets, which I think is probably some of the better, stronger moves out there at the moment, and then we'll take a look at some of those others as well. So if we have a look on pound Swissy, we've got, just come to the higher time frames. You can see that we've got a level through here. We've got a trading window up to about 122. So the trading window is roughly from 121 to 122. If we come down to the lower time frames, you can see that we've got a trend structure formed here already on the 4-hour time frame with strength in the momentum as well. So lower time frames starting to look rather reasonable as well at the moment. And again, we start to come down. The sort of things that we need to look for now is pullbacks into setups. So we've got a opening up here of geometry, and trends not looking too bad on these sort of lower time frames now that we've sort of broken out of this box and started to strengthen. So I've got pound Swissy. Similar to this, I've also got the pound yen. Again, this one is actually, and again, like pound Swissy, we got strength against strength, but Great British Pound seems to be much stronger out of the suite of strong markets this morning, and you can see that this is winning the battle quite easily across the board. So again, you've got nice strength coming through on the indicators as well. Fairly reasonable structures on these higher time frames. Again, on the lower time frames, we'll start to see some fairly decent sort of structure as well. But what we're looking for on these is pullbacks. At the moment, stop placements are looking too far away, which is behind here, or even behind here, behind this sort of candle low. There's still too far away at the moment, so we need to see some sort of retracement, possibly back into that sort of area here. So even if we get back into around that sort of 142 area where there's been previous highs, that might be sort of quite nice. The other one that I had on sterling market I had on my watch list was the pound CAD. So very similar scenario here. we got sort of strong market here, strong indications across the board. Again, strengths and weaknesses supporting this market long at the moment as well. Again, if we come down to the lower time frames, we got some sort of reasonable sort of structure forming here. Again, we need a pullback on these, so it's too late to be getting in now. But taking a look at this, you know, we can see sort of possible sort of pullbacks into areas around that sort of 174 area, brings us into these sort of previous highs and back into the moving averages as well. And this on the sort of 1-hour chart. Let's just come down to the 15. Again on the 15, possibly looking a little bit better there as well. So that's at 174 price point there. So I think these sterling markets are probably some of the sort of cleanest out there that I'm seeing. If you're seeing anything else, then let me know. Let's have a look at gold. So the challenge with gold is, we've had a massive sell-off here, and the market sort of pulled back to the key level at 1850. So as we can see here, I think below 1850, well, let's just mark in some, take a look at what we've got. So we've got 1850 here, where we can see that we've got some very clear structure. Underneath there, we've got 1820, which again has been some very clear structure as well. Let's mark that in. So just around 1820. And then I think we look at these, at this low down here, which also takes in the previous highs. So we can see that in there. So that's around sort of 1760. So just double checking that's the, so this is the CFD of contract, of course. So the levels are slightly different, the numbers are slightly different on the futures contract, but broadly the structures are exactly the same. So again, the question is here, we're going to see some strength back into the into metals, or we're going to see sort of weakness. Remember, these markets actually move from risk perspectives, and with big political things that take place, big decisions that take place, they can move these. So again, just sort of bear that in mind this afternoon. It's a difficult time predicting what the news flow is going to be. Having said that, from a technical perspective, this does look more weaker than stronger. But my preference, I think, is that longer term that we'll see some strength back into this market. So that doesn't make it particularly easy. But let's have a look at what the charts are telling us at the moment. Now, we just had a rollover here of these highs. Now, interestingly, at these highs, we've got a bundle of pivot points at these highs on the lower time frames, and that's supported enough resistance to roll the market over. So we've got price action. If we just come down to the 1 hour chart, we've got price action at this moment in time contained between this sort of narrow range. We've got rising lows. We've got this level here, which is at 1863. Now, 1863, we've got a bundle of pivots which have supported or provided enough resistance for the market to contain it, and we're in between 1863 and 1850. So quite an interesting sort of structure at the moment. So it could be looking at strength to the long side of a breakout. If we get a takeout of these lows, then I think, again, underneath 1850, these markets look sort of particularly weak and back down towards these previous lows that we've just mentioned. But not the most readable at this moment in time, but I'm keeping an eye on these to see how they sort of develop, because they could set up either way. So if we have, let's come back and have a look at, so Fergal mentioned and sort of the dollar Sing earlier in the morning prep. We've got I'm thinking we have a look at the dollar yen. So these markets here, if we look at sort of dollar yen, the sort of longer term trend structure is to the short side on these, although it's not the cleanest of structures at all, is it? That doesn't make it sort of particularly easy to trade. At this moment in time, we're seeing strength in the dollar. We've got sort of strength in the yen at the moment as well, so not particularly easy. You can see that we're getting a bit of a bounce here. Personally, I agree with you, Miles. I think maybe if we start to get new breaks of these lows, things could start to look more sort of bearish, particularly now the market's sort of underneath that 104 level. But I don't see. I think there's easier pickings out there today. One of the other ones that I was looking at this morning was the Aussie against the Kiwi, and it's a market here that we've got week against week at the moment, but we do have a half decent trend starting to form here in this one, and it's about the only one that I'm sort of seeing really within that sort of complex, which is looking fairly reasonable. So you can see that price action's just sort of breaking out of just to mark that sort of level in there. You can see that we've got a level through here. It's been tested previously with support and resistance a number of times, and now price is now actually back through that. So actually not looking too bad on here. So quite a strong market. Breaking through this level actually pushes it higher. From a structure perspective, well, we've got sort of fairly clear run up here for a while, up to around that sort of 178, 180 area. If we just take a look at this on the 4-hour time frame. So having a look at the 4-hour, we've now got pullbacks into the moving averages. We've got a 4-hour play playing out here. Indicators all looking good as well. So not looking too bad at all. This market's never been the easiest on sort of lower time frames, and you can see that here why. Very choppy, but the general structure here still going to the long side. And even here, if we start to assess these trends, you've got a higher low, equal low, higher low, higher low. Even here we've just got a higher low, so we've still got that sort of structure forming here. So I think it's something to keep an eye on, particularly as the market here, as you can see from a higher time frame perspective, is just breaking it. It's in a long trend. It's just breaking out into a new trading window out of a long-term resistance level. Michael, we'll take a look at copper. We'll take a look at copper back into the trading room, so I don't have the live data for copper on this platform. But yeah, so copper's been it's had fairly reasonable structures as well. Okay, so let me just take a look at my prep work this morning. I think in the best of the markets that I'm seeing at the moment are those the ones that we've covered. So again, if you've got anything else that is looking worthy of a look this morning, then flag it up now. Otherwise, we'll start to wrap up. And yeah, I think sterling markets probably one of the sort of strongest at the moment. We've still got that weakness coming across the Aussie and the Kiwi side of things. We've still got that strength in the US dollar, and we'll see how those themes continue. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if there is more political turmoil in the US that will support the safe haven status of the US dollar that's certainly being felt at the moment. Okay, super. So let's start to wrap this up now. And we've got a fairly decent sort of watch list today, even though in sort of rather challenging market conditions. So we'll keep an eye on those, and I'll speak to you a bit later in the trading room. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And remember, if you enjoy the live sessions and you find them useful, give them a thumbs up, and subscribe if you don't get notifications already. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel to get notified when we run these sessions, or indeed you can pop along to the Smack the Markets website, sign up for our newsletter, and you'll get the links and times emailed to you when we run these sessions. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, and bye for now.